Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. This is Justin and Shayo again with TheFlip. We are back here again for another one of our retrospective conversations on what we had today, a very interesting and thought-provoking set of sessions. So we want to get right into it. Yesterday, we sort of ended our conversation on talking about empathy and trust and the relationship between investors and entrepreneurs. And I think that's where we should start our conversation and take it further, Shayo. One of the things that was really interesting to me watching today's sessions is people are talking about, we need to have more local money. We need to have more local founders. We need to have more women founders. And then when you watch the Series A pitches, most of them were male. Most of them were foreign founders, and not necessarily most of them, right? And to me, this raises such an interesting question about like who gets to determine what the future of Africa looks like, right? And is it investors or is it founders? And what does this relationship really mean for building the future of Africa? So I think we're going to go pretty deep into that, but I want to just stop right there and pause right there and see if you had any perspectives on that first, and then we can talk about that in the context of some of the, some of the panels that we heard today.
You're diving straight in.
They told us to get started. So.
No, I think we were kind of getting onto that yesterday. I think that question, right, of empathy and trust is cool, is a really important one, and I'd like to go deeper into it, right? The trust question, firstly, right, is what we're talking about when we say trust is, we don't know where we're going, right? We don't know exactly what the roadmap is going to look like. We kind of have an end in mind, but we're kind of trusting that this partnership, which is what it is. And I think sometimes that power dynamic gets misconstrued by money and the importance of it. But it's a partnership, right? You're investing your money in me because you believe I can help you get some returns, and I'm taking your money because I believe I can help me get some returns. So it's a partnership, and kind of what I find is that's where that trust should come in, right? It's like, well, how are we going to navigate this? And do you trust that when I say that I'm going to do my best and be a good, a safe pair of hands for your investment, do you really trust that that's the case? And I think as investors, kind of, you have to trust founders because they are the people that are building the future. They're the closest to the customers and products and the things that are going to be shaping the world. So I definitely think there's a question of who you should be, rather more trust in the relationship between investor and entrepreneur, and certainly less of the more partnership framing versus the kind of current power dynamic that you see a lot.
Yeah. And that sort of raises a question in my mind about what does it mean if an investor says no, right? And, we can use your business, Kandua, for context, right? I mean, you are fundraising right now. You get a lot of yeses, you get some nos. Do those who say no to you, does it mean that they think that this thing should not exist, right? Or does it mean that it's not, does it mean that it's not in line with their strategy? I think that this sort of is a question, there's an implicit question related to, top line from DFIs, from LPs, from family offices on down, what do they think the future should look like? And this is why it's so important, in terms of sharing strategy, that sort of lens or communication trickles all the way down. But yeah, I guess the question is, what does a no mean, right? What does a no mean to you as an entrepreneur? And does that, is there a better opportunity for a two-way communication to better understand, for founders, what a no means and what the future should look like?
Sure, and to me, that's the empathy side of the conversation. So I think in the first panel, might have been the second. There was a lot of a really, really good conversation, I think, around mental health, and about someone, I believe Wim, was talking about, some insight into post-traumatic stress disorder of founders, right? And this conference didn't my PTSD was definitely flashing the whole time. There's a lot of no's inside of this conference for me, but I think that the key thing and the really important thing that I liked actually in the couple of the panels today is a really clear point of view. And I think sometimes investors, when I'm wearing that hat, me included, and entrepreneurs, everyone really in this ecosystem, you get very caught up in buzzwords, and you get very caught up in ecosystems and cost CACs and unit economics, and it becomes very buzzwordy, and no one's really saying anything after a while. And I think the empathy piece is really about just kind of like saying, okay, cool, that stuff is hygiene. Okay, so but who am I? Who are you? What do I want? What do you want? Let's have a real and honest, direct conversation. And the best people and the best investors that I've kind of dealt with, even the ones that have given me no's, that they don't look the same, but what they have is a real clear point of view and clarity on how the consistency between what they say and what they do. So if it's like, some investors might be able to, like, I've had conversations where we're sitting in the room, my pitch goes, it's, what's your valuation? Nah, that's too rich for me. I don't do things after that valuation. I'm like, great, thank you. It's been a real pleasure talking to you. This is not traumatic at all. In other situations, and then you have people that will say, okay, cool, this is how I like to have a due diligence or have a conversation, and this is the things that I believe to be true and the things that I'm looking for. And you might discuss for a long time, and they come to you and say, look, it's not working, you don't meet this. Cool. Again, it's not very traumatic. I think the problem is when people aren't really sure what they want. So you might get that no, and then the next day they made an investment in something that's completely is against the thing that they just said, because really it's very sentiment driven, and also there's this, like, I think there's a lot of pressure, right? You don't want to miss out on the next big thing and on the deal, and you have LPs to manage, and it's their money and it's their hard-earned cash. So I don't say it lightly. I think it's very hard, but one thing that I would say from a empathy perspective with an entrepreneur, and when we talk about things like mental health and we talk about supporting entrepreneurs, I think the most important thing is just to be really clear and consistent with whatever you're saying you are, and kind of get away from the buzzwords. Not everyone needs to support the mental health of their founders. Like, some people can just provide money, sit back and watch. Like, that's an okay position to take as an investor. Don't say stuff in that, like, I don't know. I don't know if you've noticed the same thing, but I just feel like there's a bit of pressure to converge to the same few points that aren't really that true. I loved the second panel where two gentlemen, I can't remember their names, Lateral Capital, I think, and Ishmael, I might be wrong.
Ishmael, Stephen.
Okay. But they have two different points of view. And one kind of believed that you kind of double down and focus on your wins. Ishmael kind of believed that, actually these are very resilient founders, and we might not have massive upside, but we're not going to have much downside. And they're two different points of view, and they're going to work really well for two different kinds of founders, and even maybe the same founder. But I can guarantee you that their relationships with their entrepreneurs will be much smoother, because they have a very clear point of view and it's not kind of all over the place. So that was cool to see people with different points of view, because I think that speaks to having a point of view.
Yeah. This also sort of raises a question in my mind about, like, where we are as an ecosystem, and if the center of gravity is shifting from investor to founder, or sort of the power dynamics, right? And in light of new pools of capital becoming available, in light of Paystack, for example, I mean, and especially this will perpetuate, I think, as some people start making money and angels start making money and can put that money back in the ecosystem. It's a question of where we are as an ecosystem in terms of the power dynamics between investor and founder. I want to read a quote from the CEO of Y Combinator, Michael Seibel, who I'm a little reluctant to like invoke Silicon Valley logic, but I actually think it's important or relevant in the context of this conversation that we're having. He says that it's not his job as a VC to believe or not believe what the cutting edge of software will be. It's his job to support founders who have a vision of how software is going to be used 10 years from now. He says, quote, "And I never want my vision to cloud theirs. If smart, talented people believe this is where software is going, I've got their back. I never for a second believe I am shaping or deciding where software is going, or I have some magical insight into where software is going," right? And so that to me is an admission of, in Silicon Valley in particular, the center of gravity rests with the founders, right? And it's hard to get into good deals. And then yesterday we were talking about, and some folks admitted that like seed stage investments for the best founders or the best startups are oversubscribed, right? And so are we at like an inflection point in the ecosystem as a result of that? And what does that mean? What are the second order effects from an investor perspective?
It's an interesting question, bro. It's a very interesting question. I think we're fairly far away from that inflection point. Just a gut feeling. I think there's a lot of founders or existing founders that still need to get pretty rich, and the ones that are that have some cash in the bank account still have jobs. So I think we've got a little way from that, but like it's really interesting thinking about that question of that, like who should it center around, especially around the kind of points that you made around, you know, the diversity of kind of founders on the continent, because I think it's really interesting to me. I think that, you know, who's best to solve problems than the people that have the problems. I think that someone mentioned it again earlier today. Diversity to me is not really a question of like ticking boxes, although we kind of somehow make it into this weird compliance thing. It's about kind of getting better ideas and finding opportunities and blind spots, because the same people are going to come up with the same stuff, and you know, I think that's the beauty of it. And I always get really excited about, you know, like what are the blind spots that we specifically as Africans can fill, and how do we think about those, and how do we like
can fill globally, by the way, right? Is that what you mean? Like,
well, maybe I'm not obsessed with expanding into like Europe. It's boring to me. There's a lot of stuff here on the continent to do. Like, it's just me personally. That's my point of view. There's so much stuff to do, and I sometimes we get caught up in a lot of the structures of everything, and it's like, no, there's where are the blind spots? Let's find them. Let's collaborate on finding them. Let's sort them out. It's important. There's a lot of stuff that technology allows us to do that are really we need to leverage this thing, because, you know, as we've talked about, there's a whole lot of contextual and macro factors that are constraints, but some are opportunities. And I wish people would kind of I don't know if the word is relax a little, but like just kind of look at the problems and try and work to solve them, and have more direct, clear communication with each other about how we solve them. We waste a lot of time, I feel.
Yeah, it is true. I mean, there's a lot of problems to solve, and I don't know. I mean, in the last couple of minutes that we have, as we look forward towards, you know, next year and for the African Early Stage Investor Summit, and just as, you know, when we enter the post-COVID world and things start to get back to normal, or, you know, the ecosystem continues to change. I mean, I'll speak for myself, and then I'll ask you as well. Like, I still remain bullish in spite of, you know, these existential challenges, and in spite of SARS and so many other things, that, like, you know, the entrepreneurs who have the problems, like, are really well placed and also capable to work it out, right? And in Nigeria in particular, like in light of SARS, like, you know, you see some of these founders putting like their day jobs on hold to you know, like create SARS helplines and to raise money for like like a relief fund and all of these different things. And it's like truly remarkable. Right. And so there's a separate question altogether about like, investing in Nigerians versus investing in Nigeria, the institution. But that being said, like, are there things that you have like on a go forward basis? Like you're completely committed to the continent as an investor. Your business is here in South Africa. Like, what are you thinking about going forward? And, are there perhaps some lessons or some insights or some things that you wish to hear or see, as part of the discourse next year, just, in general, or perhaps at the conference as well?
Yeah, I mean, my vibe. So I again, like, I can't speak to what I can't speak of this as an authority. I can speak about it from a personal point of view. I'm really excited about impacts driven, kind of that kind of intersection of, what do you call it? I think social entrepreneurship is maybe the name, but that kind of like, let's build infrastructure and platforms, etc., that people need, but also that you can that can be profitable and high return for investors and partners, etc., etc. Let's collaborate. Let's use these. Again, it's very biased, but I love the kind of potential of marketplace thinking, platform thinking, collaborative thinking, because that's what that is for our continent. It sings to the kind of people we are, at our core. And then it's also fun and hard, and it's, real rigorous stuff, because we can stand up, with anybody across the world when it comes to resilience and rigor and quality. So, I think from my personal point of view, the things I'm excited about is really just leveraging this, both the technology, but the technology thinking, the method, to build cool products and useful, impactful products.
Yeah, certainly like the product approach and the idea about testing hypotheses and experimenting. Like you and I have talked about that a lot. Like the opportunity for that to apply in business building and investing in across all facets of life. Like that's how these answers and these hypothetical questions are going to present themselves, is just by, testing more ideas and putting resources to testing and rapid experimentation and seeing what happens there. So I'm with you on that. Any last words, or should we leave it there and wrap up?
It's really weird just like looking at you, but knowing that we're talking about people that we were just looking at. So thanks everyone for participating. I think it's been really cool. I've really enjoyed this kind of everyone's views and great points and the great work everyone is doing. So I'm honored and excited to be a part somewhere of this community.
Yeah, we're honored to have been given the opportunity to pontificate for a little bit. So thank you for that. To ABAN and to the VC Foray guys. Again, I'm Justin, and that was Shia. We co-produce a podcast called TheFlip. You can find it on TheFlip.Africa. And Shia is also fundraising, shameless plug, but thanks again for having us. And I think after this, we'll turn it over to Ben for a few last words and then the after party. So thanks, guys. Have a good one.